Hello, brothers and sisters. Father Nathaniel, National Chaplain of the Lumen Institute, and Happy New Year to you. We're in January, and a big congratulations, first of all, for last year, because in Lumen we had dedicated 8 months. That's a significant amount of time, 8 months to delving into the church's social teaching, applying the teachings of Christ to our social lives, into the sectors of business, of politics, of family, and the pursuit of peace. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. And as we get into this new year, as you may have heard, we are going back to the handbook, the Lumen Handbook, and we're going to spend the next 12 months working through the 12 virtues, the traditional 12 virtues that we espouse in Lumen, looking at Jesus as a leader and going deeper in those 12 virtues, right? And so we're going to start off with the character virtues, right? And the first one of those, you might recall, is prudence. And so I'm going to have the handbook with me these next months, and I hope that encourages you also to pick up the handbook and go back to it, that we refresh together all the great material that we have here. I think a good goal this year would be to at least read through the handbook once, okay? That would be a little invitation to all of you out there, okay? For you and your families to read through it once. So just a reminder of a few key points about prudence. So prudence, defined by Lumen in the handbook, is sound judgment in determining actions, okay? Basic definition. But I think it's always nice to go back to, for example, Aristotle. Aristotle said prudence is the charioteer of the virtues. Think of the stallions, right? The black stallions, and how you always had a charioteer guiding those stallions. All the virtues are important. All the virtues help us to flourish and be excellent as men and women. But you need a guide of those stallions, because any virtue can get out of control. I mean, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about perseverance eventually. Think of perseverance. You can persevere in a lot of things, but you can be blind perhaps. So you could be persevering in your work, but to the detriment of your family. You could be persevering in prayer, but you pray so much at home perhaps that you neglect your work. And so we have to find prudence is that determining virtue that helps guide how much, when, where, the measure of everything, right? So it kind of measures out the virtues and the right timing of each one, the right amount of each one. And that's something that Christ our Lord demonstrated, right? He's a very sound and prudent man, right? He knew how to treat each one with love and respect and challenge them the way they needed. That was the virtue of prudence. Love as the heart behind it, but played out in prudential decision making. So maybe a couple things about prudence real quickly to keep in mind. I mean, prudence says, how do we grow in prudence? Well, we grow in prudence by knowing where you're going. So having a bit of a plan, having a bit of a vision for where you're going in life. A benefit is that you form the habit of mature deliberation, right? So that with this virtue, how do we grow it? Well, we have to form a sense of deliberation. So do I take time for decisions? I know a business leader who, here in Houston, for example, that when he's asked to do something, a new project, give financially or whatever it might be, he has his 48-hour rule. 48 hours, I'm not going to say yes, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to make a decision. I'm going to take 48 hours to pray, to think, to reflect, to journal, to consult other people, and then make a decision. So prudence, to grow in prudence, we need to form that mature deliberation, that reflection, which is not easy in this world of quick response, of rapid, intense stimuli. And then it's to be decisive. So prudence is not weakness. Prudence is strength. And so when you come to that deliberation and you've kind of set on your path, you got to be deliberative and go forward. Those are some ways you can grow in prudence. I just would like to highlight also some what does prudence look like and not. So for example, in the spiritual life, prudence, for example, would look like, well, maybe if prayer is an important part of your life, you start your day with prayer and not put it off till you go to bed, for example, because a lot of things get in the way, you're distracted and you're tired when you go to bed. I mean, we've all been there and done that. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to pray tonight, and you're exhausted, and you fall asleep and you barely spent 10 seconds trying to pray before you're out cold or you're vegging on the TV, right? Prudence would look like that I'm going to start off the day with prayer. I'm going to give God the first shot of the day. Prudence would be in prayer like maybe I'm going to make a break midday in work and take a minute to recollect, to pray, to maybe go out and look at nature outside and enjoy a little time with God. Prudence in my family. What does that look like? Well, it looks like perhaps maybe calling or texting your wife during the day to check in and see how your spouse is doing, for example. Prudence in your family might be, well, to kind of mentally prepare before coming home and you have kids and like so many, maybe you come in, you're exhausted, and you veg on the couch, and you don't have time for the kids, and the kids have just been waiting all day to see you. Well, prudence would be maybe prepare yourself mentally. Maybe you take a 5-minute breather between the end of work and when you go in the house and you get ready to be with the kids, right? Prudence in business might be that maybe you don't fire off that email right away when you're not feeling so happy about what the person said and you're feeling angry or upset, and rather you pause. Prudence might be that you're investing in the relationship to spend time with the others before asking them to do something hard, right? That you're investing to help them know that you love them, that you care about them. There's so many ways to grow in prudence. I would really recommend you get out the handbook and read the whole section on what prudence looks like and what it doesn't look like. So my brothers and sisters, as we begin this journey of going through the virtues again this year, I invite you to really take it seriously, to know that the virtues are at the heart of leadership and that we have a great gift in Lumen to grow in them together. So God bless you, and let's invest well, especially as we start off on prudence. Take care. Blessings upon you and your families.